And we know if you're a coach with the following, say, I want to be an artist. Doesn't matter what you want to do. If you build a community, if you tell your story, you have the tremendous opportunity that has never existed in the history of the world. Be the story. All right, Keith, as we move on, one of the things that I really, really want to talk about, and I'm so excited, and if you're joining us now, we're helping student athletes live the life of their dreams by understanding NIL and building a powerful personal brand to live out their dreams. And we're going to talk now about some of the real mistakes that athletes make, right? And I think this is so important because sometimes those are the things that keep us from being elite, being at the top level. And I'm really excited to have you here alongside me in your 2.5 to almost 3 decades of experience working with student athletes, helping them to realize their dreams. It's so very important. And as I always talk about, Keith, organic social media is the most untapped leveraged opportunity. I keep saying this all the time. Most people are one video from going viral or 6 months to a year of being consistent, of living the tool of their life. So one of the things I want to talk about, and we talk about this all the time, and that part in both of those equations is consistency, right? And I want you to talk about from your side of it, and what you're seeing, because one of the things I'm often asked by people, they say, "Oh man, Jay, I hear all this talk about social media. You're always talking about it, and there's social media. I don't understand how people make money." And then they say, "Hey, can you look over what we're doing and give us some insights?" And I'll go to their page and I'll go to their Instagram and I'll go to their Twitter, and their last post was 4 days ago. You know what I mean? And it's halfway through the month and they've got 3 posts. And so a lot of people just underestimate the amount of just being consistent. What are some of the things you're seeing as well? Because you're on the brand side, working with brand agencies. You're also working with student athletes. You're working with the athletic administration and coaches. How important is consistency in your mind?
I think you're hitting on the issue here, and let me just take it to the next level. Okay,
Yeah.
You're talking about consistency.
Yeah.
And you hit upon the post. Okay, so I think as student athletes approach social media, and if they're not posting a lot, okay, people may follow, but
Yeah.
they might not pay attention to you that much if you're not putting much out there. But if you are putting stuff out there on a consistent basis, not only are they going to follow you, but they're going to interact with you.
Right. Right.
And so I think on the brand side, follower counts are very important. Sure, they are. But the interaction level, that's just as, if not more important.
No, I think you're right. And a quick example comes to mind, Keith. A lot of people, I would say the one of the greatest trollers of all time, and I'm by no means promoting trolling. It's just this, again, being himself, is Kevin Durant, right? Team USA has been playing in the Olympics. And Kevin Durant, of course, we know he was found to have a burner account. Now he just runs out of his main account. Well, somebody had criticisms of their game, and Kevin Durant went on there and asked the person a question and said, "Where are you from?" And you say, "Well, why is he doing this?" Well, let me tell you what that's doing. That's actually making Kevin Durant more popular, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because so many people, some people are not being authentic as to who they are. And I think if you understand that that's Kevin Durant, you could better like him. You don't have to agree with him jumping on and asking. And the tone was fine. He was just like, "Where are you from?" Because the person was criticizing, the close games that they've been having. We all know the world's catching up to Team USA. But Kevin Durant comments on other people's posts about basketball. I mean, so if Kevin Durant with, 10 plus million followers on Instagram has the time to jump into comments, respond to people, I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And I think he's just being himself, to your point.
Yeah, that's a great. Honestly, I did not know all that about Kevin Durant. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it makes him popular with people. And then, what we've seen since then, people are therefore more, commenting, on his things and engaging, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
you're talking about. That because social media, people forget, is the dialogue back and forth. That is the reason why, if you look even in the news media side, internet personalities are more popular than whole networks, right? Because you can interact and have a two-way dialogue on social media as opposed to broadcast news is just pushing out a message. And so I think you are so very, that is a hot tip right there, which is engagement and having dialogue. I mean, you hit that one out the park.
Yeah, I was recently, talking to a company, and they were looking at a couple different athletes,
Yeah,
and just to clarify this a little bit more, they were looking at these are relatively small deals in the grand scheme of things, but they were looking at two different athletes. One had 10,000 followers, but not a lot of interactions. They posted very
sure.
irregularly
Yeah,
and just not consistent.
yeah,
The other person had about 1,000 followers, but every post that they did had a very high interaction count
yeah,
because they were putting something up that was interesting. To use your phrase, authentic,
yeah,
and
yeah,
people connected. They wanted to be part of that conversation. So follower count alone wasn't persuading this
right.
company. They were looking at, okay, I want to know, like, if somebody's saying something, if a student athlete is saying something, how many people are actually taking the time to
Yeah,
listen,
yeah,
you know? And so interaction count matters. Being interesting, being authentic, getting people to want to engage with you
yeah.
matters. It's not just always about the follower count.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you can't just post and leave. It's having that two-way dialogue and not necessarily having to respond to everyone. Sometimes it might just be hitting the like button. You can use emojis. There's different things that we can do. So I think you are so very important. I think consistently so important. To your point, I also think engaging with the community. And then the other thing, Keith, that I think is so huge. If we look at the people who are best in class. We look at the Kai Cenats of the world. We look at if we look at the people who are really doing incredible things. They understand their audience, and I think that's so key. And I want you to also hit on this point because understanding that why are people following you and what is the draw. And I think sometimes when the people are really successful, I love talking about Kai just because he's the top streamer of the world. And we look at is it Jake Paul, right? I mean, this is someone who started making videos when he's a teenager. Now he had the cancel fight with Tyson. He's got a energy drink that's literally pushing the big brand makers to rethink how they're doing things. And a lot of that is because they understand, look, people are coming to me for entertainment. This is what I mean by understanding your audience. If you understand, like, hey, my particular audience, they work a 9 to 5 or they're going to school and they're grinding it out. And my personal brand is I love dancing. And I dance to my teammates because that's what you guys do, and you're doing different things or you try adventures, then maybe understanding that group person who's following you may not like something else that's totally different that has nothing that's off brand, and not that you can't be yourself, but just understanding that. Keith, how important do you also feel that understanding your audience is?
I think is vital, and I think being responsive with your audience and making them feel important
Yeah,
and making them feel heard is important. One of the examples, I'm going to use him as an example because I think he does an excellent job with this, and is somebody near and dear to both of us, is Robert Griffin III.
yeah,
He posts
Griff,
content, or he posts comments, he posts opinions about different things.
yeah,
People will chime in, and you will see him on a consistent basis in
absolutely.
the comments respond, and it's in a very respectful way. He's respecting other people's opinion, but he
Yeah,
does a very phenomenal job with this.
he does.
And you know, I think this goes back to school. If one person's got the question, there's going to be other people in the
Yeah,
classroom that get the same question, right?
yeah,
And so, taking the time to answer and to facilitate conversation with that one person is probably, that's probably a question other people
yeah,
have on their minds too. So, you know, if you're thinking of that question of a popular sports star that you're
yeah,
following,
yeah,
and they're taking the time to address that one on one with another, person that's following them, you start to it's a further connection.
Yeah.
It's
No, I agree with you. I mean, like you said with RG3, obviously, a lot of people know he was also an All American 400-meter hurdler while he was in college at Baylor. And during the Olympics now, during different times when they have big races, if there's some issues, he brings his insights like, hey, guys, in that race, this person, they drug their leg off to the side instead of going over instead of going over the hurdles. And then, even I saw him, jump into, we know the success that the WNBA and women's basketball is having, and being someone, right, who was a phenomenal high school athlete and developed himself into be a Heisman. He knows all that goes with it and building it, right? And so I love it because he has some hot takes that, like, for example, what Caitlin Clark was going through, what Angel Reese, what all these different WNBA vets are going through. And he has, and to your point, people love it. And then, right, you go on ESPN and said, hey, Robert Griffin chimed into the conversation, right?
Yeah, and that's what it's engaging,
Yeah.
it's thought provoking, and I see this from a lot of the top content producers out there. They put stuff out there. It's not just, hey, what's up?
Right.
But they're offering something that makes people think.
Right.
Maybe I think some people put stuff out there that is purposefully just to get a rise out of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. No, I
know,
think you're right.
but I think there are enough people out there that are putting something out there, and to the example of RG3, not only his football accolades, but his track insight is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And,
So
and, and he's since become one of the top track announcers, right?
yeah,
But if you go back to your point and look at his social media accounts, he actually started talking about it. For those you don't know, he's on the NCAA track coverage, covering some of the big meets. And to your point, Keith, he actually started his commentary. He go live. For example, I follow him on TikTok. He would go live on the different platforms, like giving real time takes after races. To your point, and then that, along with other things, led to his current opportunity. So I think your take is so valid.
yeah, and I'm trying to think of the Cleveland Cavaliers player, former. This is we're going in the Wayback Machine. Is it Brad Doherty that
Mhm.
is?
Yeah,
Isn't he doing stuff with NASCAR or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
believe he's like a team captain or coach, but I forget the exact term.
but
I'll
he,
look
he
it up
was
while you're talking.
he was doing a little bit of analysis. I recall seeing that, and I was like, wait, okay, seeing these different facets to people is fascinating.
Right.
I know this from the end user experience
Yeah.
as a customer. You know, while I might not be into car racing, I'm going to take a few moments because I do like basketball and I know who he
Right.
is, and but you're getting to see different sides of these different people that are out.
Absolutely.
I think that leads into the authenticity piece as to who people are.
Right.
You
Right.
pointed out
Right.
you pointed out several times, Jay. I enjoy this NIL stuff. I enjoy college
Yeah.
athletics. Yeah, I'm tremendously into fishing and giving back to the community through the fishing. Um, it's just a different side to me, and I'm not just here to do college athletics,
Right.
but I've got these other sides, and I think the more student athletes can show these different sides to them,
Yeah.
the more you're going to catch,
All
and the
right, I
more.
looked it up. Brad Doherty is a primary owner of a NASCAR team that participated in the Daytona 500. They had a lot of success last year. For those of you who don't know, I mean, like you said, he was a five-time uh, All Star with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So no, you're spot on. And then I think he played. Is it right at UNC? Is that right?
Oh, oh,
He's from North Carolina, home of NASCAR. I'm
you
talking about the
know,
roots. We're talking about the old. Some of you guys may not know about it. We're talking about some of those old dirt road tracks of NASCAR before the big track.
and if we make a mistake here and say he's from UNC and maybe he went to Duke or NC State, we're gonna get some hate
All right.
mail.
We will not say where he went to school. We will say that he definitely grew up in North Carolina. That I know to be a fact.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
And I did look it up. He went to North Carolina 82 to 86. All right.
Okay,
So I think, back to your point, I'm really good at distracting us, is being yourself, because I think that building a personal brand is being yourself 24/7, 365, and never wavering, right? Money and fame don't change you. They just reveal more of who you are. And it's really like a binary thing. It's either you're authentic or you're not. And I think some of the biggest thing is that people alter themselves, their true selves, in a way, instead of staying true to who they are, right? And you should always stay true to who you are. And that is a great brand. And just so anyone home that's asking, Keith, what is a brand? A brand is an emotional connection to a person, place, or thing, right? Why do I buy Nike Air Force Ones as a shoe that I love, right? That's what a brand is. Why do some people go to Starbucks instead of going to the corner store that has a 99-cent coffee? Right. Those are a brand. It is emotional connection. And so the way you do that is being authentically yourself. And I think is content creators. And it doesn't matter if you're a student athlete, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent, like being authentically yourself and talking about the things that are interesting to you is where I think success comes with building a personal brand.
Great explanation. I love that. As a huge advocate for coffee, yeah, the 99-cent store coffee is actually, I think sometimes very, very good.
It's very good sometimes, Keith. It's
It's
very
very
good.
good. It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, sometimes you gotta go with the Starbucks though, it's something familiar, it's a name thing. Same.
Right.
I agree with you. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. One of the things we talked about that, and we create a lot of content about this because one of the things that people are understanding this is understanding what they sign. I mean, we've talked in other pieces of content about this. For example, we've even seen celebrities who co-signed concerts and promoted certain NFT type of financial instruments that then went down, and they've then filed lawsuits and gained um, lawsuits and been awarded settlements off of their involvement. And part of that is understanding what they're signing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the phenomenons I'm seeing with NIL, and this we're gonna get into the weeds here, but some of these investment firms, they will sign college student
Well,
athletes for future
that's big because the whole just being fully transparent, right? The whole crypto NFT, that whole
yeah,
that space is growing, and so there's a lot of people out there looking for opportunities, and they have funding.
yeah. I'm thinking of like Fernando Tatis Jr.
Sure.
He signed a deal at some point in his career where he allowed an investment fund to capitalize on any future professional earnings. And I know,
Right.
as you mentioned, there was lawsuits after the fact,
Yeah. Yeah.
after he started to blow up, become very popular, very good, very lucrative. But I'm seeing stuff like that where
Oh,
student athletes aren't reading all the fine print. What
yeah.
exactly does this mean? Not just a month from now. What does this mean 2 years from now?
Right.
And, planning for success. We've hit on that so many times
Yeah.
in this show. How do you plan for success? You don't sign a contract just for the today and the next month, but how does this look a year from now,
Right.
2 years from now?
Yeah. Well, and I think you mentioned you and I have talked many times. One of the people that we both really have a great appreciation for is the Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously, Big Aristotle. He's known by so many names. But one of the things that he talks about, and I love it. I saw this podcast that he was on. He was just saying he never invests in things that he doesn't understand. Right? I'm gonna say that
Yeah.
again. He never invests in things that he doesn't understand. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that once people explain it to him, he does a process to investigate things and if he doesn't understand it after that process, he doesn't get involved with it.
That makes sense. I mean, I've totally embraced that. I get it. I have had the opportunity to meet him a long, long, long time
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Oh, phenomenal human being. I
Do
was
you have a
really
picture? I wish
impressed.
you had a picture. Do you have a picture?
This is before camera phones and
Oh, man,
all.
I'd love to
It
see it.
was huge. This is early '90s, so
Okay. Okay. So
yeah,
you meet Shaq. So you meet Shaq.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal human being. So he's been a great follow for me. And I think it really leads to this whole NIL conversation. I had a chance encounter with him, established a connection.
Yeah,
Immediately became a fan, follow. When I hear him say something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop and
yeah,
listen because,
yeah,
you know, all because of a chance interaction. And yeah, a phenomenal way to look at NIL
yeah,
is, taking these little connections you got. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm the one sidetracking us now.
No, no, no. You're doing great. I mean, he's someone who's built an empire. I read somewhere, of course, we don't know if it's accurate unless the person says it themselves, but publications online say he's worth north of $400 million. I mean,
Wow.
even if they're wrong by a little bit, that's or even a lot, that's still a huge net worth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a golly man. I would like to have just a little dose of that success that Shaq has. He's done a great job with
Yeah,
his brand, though. He's aligned himself with some very worthwhile projects,
yeah,
companies, headlines.
agree.
But I think he is very authentic.
Yeah,
I think we all get a good feeling as to who he is.
yeah,
Businessman.
yeah.
Obviously got some basketball success, but he's funny.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I think you're right, and he kind of leads to my next point. One of the big mistakes that I see is that content creators are making is not being truly authentic and transparent. One of the keys that I see is that people are not being transparent. What does that mean? So it's just really meaning that when people are watching, they really understand what's going on. And when you're transparent with people and you disclose what the instructions are and what's going on, it develops closer, better relationships, and you have integrity. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're being paid, um, or compensated to have an experience or to review a product, you're better off disclosing. Like, I this one content creator, I love it. He's a guy, he actually was a pool cleaner, regular content guy. He's got about 500,000 followers now. And he started like doing comedy during COVID because he always wanted to do comedy, but he, has built up a pretty good career as a pool cleaner. And it's kind of hard to back off being a cool pool cleaner, um, because he's having this success. And then he built up an audience and he started reviewing products on TikTok Shop. And he's like, hey guys, I love what I do and I love storytelling. And people have been asking me to review products, but I'm not going to review everything. I'm only going to go over the things that I think are valuable. He has a testing process that he has, and he turns down a lot of things. But he's like, look, I'm not going to just review things to make money. And then if you go to the comments, Keith, people are like, man, I respect you, brother. That's so. And he was saying, like, I've been in sales jobs before in this pool industry where they want me to promote things or do certain things to people's pools that make us more money. He's like, I left those jobs. And what's happening now is last month, and I'm only giving one person's story. I'm not saying it's what people can do. He showed his TikTok shop a dashboard. He made $40,000 last month reviewing products. What is he reviewing? Tools fit for pools, a cooler for pools, the chemicals that you can use. So, so what's the key to transparency? People know what it is they're doing, so they can opt into it because they feel like they know the story.
Yeah, and to this point, I think this is where the FTC comes into play.
Yeah,
If you're not familiar with the FTC, Federal Trade Commission,
Federal Trade Commission.
all right, they got an amazing document out there that's called Social Influencing 101. It's a
Yep,
5-page document, very good. As I explained to a lot of student athletes, you want to be the professional in these deals.
yep,
So understanding what FTC is and when you're being compensated to do something similar to what your buddy might be doing. If a company asks you to do something online,
yeah.
you're actually required by federal law to be
Required to.
traceable if you're being compensated in some way, shape, or form. And so,
And some of the platforms want you denoted in the back end, and you can ask the people on your campus. You don't have to worry about how to do this. All the campuses have resources to help you. It'll say oftentimes, if you look, you may not have paid attention sometimes, it'll say a promoted item or a partnership. It just depends. Each platform has their own way of doing that.
yes, but knowing how to do those things. I mean, think about this from Jay, if you're the owner of a coffee shop,
Right.
I'm a student athlete. I come to
Right.
you and I say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna do these TikTok videos. I'm gonna do these IG reels for you. I'm gonna do all this stuff for you." And I tell you, "Hey, look, I have to say this
Yeah.
in the video." Now to that small diner, they're not they might not even thought of that. They
Right.
might not even have known about that. But as the student athlete says, "Hey, I have to do this, this, and this to make this legitimate."
Yep.
Okay, all of a sudden that small diner's looking at that student athlete in a very different way, saying, "Wait a second, this
Yeah.
person actually knows what they're talking about."
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely. And here's the great thing, right? The consumers are already accustomed to being advertised to, right? I mean, right, during sporting matches now, even the medical timeouts are sponsored by medical organizations, right?
y- yeah,
So,
yeah,
but my point is, people don't like you don't like. I think one of the things that we're doing with this information that you're sharing, which is so valuable, Keith, is like, don't worry, because I think this is what you're getting to is like because I can relate to this as a content creator, is people are worried, like, oh man, if I tell them people won't want to buy. It's like, no, no, no. Like you said, you're required to do it. That's a one. The
yes,
two, it actually makes the relationship better because right, like each of our friendships and the relationships that we have, you'd rather someone tell you what it is up front rather than try to sneak it in. Because that's kind of what you're doing if you one, it is not compliant to not disclose, and we're definitely saying you must disclose. But some people, there are people, because we have to be transparent. There are people in the spaces, not necessarily athletes, but there's content creators out there, and that's been some of the issues where they've been compensated for things and not disclosed it to the user. So number one, that's not compliant. Number two, it's not a great relationship.
no, you want to build up that trust with the
Yeah,
people that are listening to you,
yeah,
and by not being transparent,
yeah.
yeah, you kind of kill that trust. And
Yeah. I love
yeah,
it. I love it. All right,
it's
so
kind of like going back to dating. You lie once, now you've created that little sliver of doubt.
right,
And
right. Well, you should know you're happily married, so yeah, you know better than anyone. Um, so one of the things too that and we've talked about this, and we'll continue to talk about because it's so important. One of the things, and I'm gonna allow you to talk about it, is many athletes rush into agreements without proper guidance and understanding what should athletes be aware of. Because here's the great thing that I've learned from talking to you: the schools oftentimes have the resources.
yes, I I tell student athletes all the time. Yes, it is very exciting to get your first
Yeah,
NIL deal. I hear you. Very exciting to get that first deal or second deal, and you know, but take your time. Understand
right,
exactly what it is before just signing and saying, "I got my first NIL deal." Okay,
right.
great, 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 great.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the same time, you don't want to be the first one to like just sign a deal and then
yeah,
discover afterwards, ooh, I could have negotiated that a little better,
yeah.
or I didn't mean to agree to do this. So understanding it at the start is really really important. And I think as student athletes approach this and they kind of create their inner circle. Yeah, and having
Right,
that little circle of friends or resources. It might be the school compliance officer. It
right.
might be the NIL liaison. It might even be the coach. It might even
Yeah,
be the business professor.
yeah,
You know, having that little circle of people to talk to
yeah.
it is important. Now, I've talked to a couple student athletes, and this is a fear, and I think this is misguided fear. But one student athlete told me, I don't want to tell people about a deal and share, what that deal is, because then they're going to come in and take it away from me, or they're going
Right,
to pitch the company, something that might be a little bit better, for themselves and steal this opportunity from me. I think that's a little misguided, to be honest. I think companies are offering the deal because there's something about that specific person that is very very interesting and
yeah.
something that's got them hooked. So I think it don't have that fear. Talking to your friends, hey, if I talk to them and share, try to get their thoughts, they're going to sneak in there and take it away from you. I've not seen it
Yeah.
happen. Hopefully it
For
never
sure. Yeah,
happens, but I
yeah.
don't know.
And here's a great thing, right? Getting more information, developing better relationships, and accessing the resource around them gives you a place of comfort because you know, hey, I've got knowledge and a lot of this. And so if you like what you're seeing, if you like this content, smash that like button and follow us on social media. So because what you're getting at is that there are nuances. We're here to help you walk you through that process of how to avoid all these pitfalls, right? Because I always say, Keith, that if I can look around and someone that's like me has done this before, then I can do it. That I just need to ask the right questions and surround myself with the right people.
Yeah. I think having that inner circle is important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I love that. I love what you're saying. Let's talk. One of the things we're going to talk a lot about this. I think the what I'm seeing is the number one mistake that athletes are making is
Mhm.
not realizing the totally underutilized opportunity with social organic media. Social organic media. And I've said this so many times. I'll keep saying it. You're one post away from going viral. You're 6 months to a year from being consistent, right? And therefore, for a lot of people, it's not as far as you think. It's right in front of you. And part of that is being consistent. And we're going to help you with resources on how can I create content, right? How can I just naturally tell about yourself? And so I think that is the biggest opportunity that people make a mistake on. Is not an understanding that time is moving and taking advantage. You talk all the time about the life the life of a student athlete, and that's any content creator, right? Because some people, like I would have told, would have gotten on TikTok back 3 years ago. It would they be in a different situation. But that still being said, the best time to get started is when today.
Jay, can I ask you a few questions about what you mean by organic? Because
Yeah,
I know, sometimes, organic that doesn't resonate with some people. Okay.
yeah,
So what do you mean when you say organic? Because to me, it feels like, hey, it's just a natural moment on
right,
social media where somebody, people react to it, right?
right,
And it just goes from there
yeah,
rather than something that feels forced
yeah,
and natural and somebody's putting it out there
yeah,
just to get that reaction, but it just feels so
yeah.
forced.
So this is a great question. This you just asked the jewel of a question. So in media, there's what's called paid media and earned media. Paid media in general are when you're buying advertisements, product placements, buying endorsements, right? Like we're thinking about the old yellow pages, we're thinking about commercials on TV, billboard ads, digital ads. Those are all paid. And traditionally, right, that's how businesses advertised. And it drove everything, right? So much so that if you looked around in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, because the yellow pages were alphabetized, companies would call themselves ABC Company because ABC was at the front of the yellow pages, right? And that's what you had to do. And you had to have an inordinate amount of money to do that, to place the ads. And then the other thing, to be a media company, you needed a lot of money to create content. So two things have happened now when we talk about social organic. That is content that's made on social media using this phone that shoots in 4K. Your average cell phone shoots in 4K, which is well beyond anything prior to maybe 5 or 10 years ago that was available, right? To create a movie, you needed, $1 million of equipment and staff. Now today you have this. This shoots just as well 4K. And so when we talk about social organic, it is creating content that you make yourself and you become your own publisher. And it's you are putting it on the platform. Never in the history of the world has there been an opportunity for anyone to make something for free, right? Meaning with this, that can go organic and reach 2, 4, 6, 10 million people with one piece of content. So that is social organic content.
That's a great explanation, and you're taking me back with that yellow page example.
Yeah, right.
Wow,
Think about
that's
and it was expensive, right, Keith?
oh yeah, oh yeah. No, but yeah, you still see some remnants of the past. Sometimes when you're driving around, you see the, you know, a locksmith, and it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that company is a
Yeah,
little bit of an older company company because they put that A specifically in the name. You know,
Absolutely.
that was a product of the yellow pages.
Yeah, well, but that just shows us how powerful and how many resources. And so, when I talk about this, I think this is a tremendous opportunity. And I think the things that we have to do is just be one of the great things about being a content creator. And my next thing, and I'm staying on this one, but I'm gonna add another jewel because you made me think of it right now. Is is one big mistake is not having gratitude. And gratitude is the understanding and the appreciation that I have this tremendous opportunity in front of me to create content that 20 years ago, 30 years ago wasn't possible, right? If you wanted to be, we talk about social media content creators like Drewski. He's a guy who now has a multi-million person following, the Jake Pauls of the world, the Kai Cenats. Those people had to go to Hollywood to be an actor. These are people, Drewski, real quick, is a young man who during COVID lived in the suburbs of Atlanta, always wanted to be a comedian, started writing jokes himself. He merely started writing skits, right? So think about, what did you have to do? Well, back in the Eddie Murphy days, the big days of the 80s and 90s, you had to move to New York City from Cleveland, St. Louis, wherever you lived, go there, make it on their show that thousands and thousands of people wanted to be on, to be Saturday Night Live, to launch your career. What can you do today? You can do this. So Drewski started writing skits every single day, and they became so popular. Now he's got his own series, and he's one of the most influential people out there. And I talk about him because he's relatable to what many people can do. So I think the biggest mistake is not understanding the tremendous opportunity in front of you and appreciating that.
Yeah, no, it's great example. A great example. Very funny guy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He does.
yeah,
Matter of fact, he's so influential. He has a saying that many of student athletes, many people saying, standing on business, right? So he made a whole skit. There was one skit about standing on business. Now, not it, it's become so big. People around the world say, I'm standing on business. You'll turn on CNN, ESPN, you'll go on social media. People in Germany, people in Taiwan, people in other places around the world are saying, I'm standing on business. That's the opportunity that's in front of you.
that's awesome.
That,
That's
that's what we're talking about. That's why we're here today, to help you start today and not say tomorrow, to help people stop what I call doom scrolling, which is when you're sitting in bed, and we all do it. But one of the big things is getting started today. So I say, understanding the huge opportunity of social organic. I also say being appreciative of the opportunity, because when we're appreciative and we're humble and we say, man, like, I don't have to make content today. I get to make content. Like, I literally jumped up out of the bed this morning and I was like so excited to film this content with you and to talk about these things, to help athletes, to help coaches, to help individuals out there who are saying, man, like, I want to be a superstar real estate agent. I want to be an insurance person, right? Like, I want to be a coach, right? And we know if you're a coach with the following, or if you're going to be an art, you say, I want to be an artist. Doesn't matter what you want to do. If you build a community, if you tell your story, you have the tremendous opportunity that has never existed in the history of the world.
yeah. I think you nailed it. I will. I've had a long career in sports. I love
Yeah.
it. You know, I'm humbled. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I've had. I, I keep waiting for this ride to end at some point.
It's not, we're just getting started, Keith.
Well, you know, but I just feel blessed. This is
Yeah.
what I get to do. It's not
Yeah.
what I have to do. It's what I get to do. This is amazing.
Right.
You know, to be able to do this type of stuff and to, you know, be a part of, you know, some of the stories that I've been part of in my career. But gratitude and just being humble about it.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. Um,
Well, a guy I love, I'm on the side, I'm a huge aviation space nerd. You know, I grew up, my dad was in the military, and so I grew up on watching all of these aircrafts taking off. And one of the guys I love is what is this? Is it Neil Tice deGrasse? I always mess his name up. What's his name? How
Neil,
do you say his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. And I was watching a speech that he was talking about. And I love him because he's really good at taking the complicated of science and galaxies and outer space and making it where someone like myself who doesn't have that kind of educational training can understand it. And he said the odds of being born are one between 1 and 40 million and 1 and 400 trillion. So the fact that you and I are alive in and of itself is a huge miracle. Think about that. And that
See,
we're alive in this moment, right? Like instead of 100 years ago, 2000 years ago. So, when we talk about that appreciation, what do you think of when I tell you that number between 400 million and 4 trillion? That's the odds anyone's born.
that's amazing. And I think, okay, this is such an unscripted, unplanned moment on Brand&Athlete because here we are talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay.
We're really talking about gratitude, but go ahead. I just want to make sure people understand what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to be alive. Yes, 100% grateful to be in the position we're in.
Yeah.
Grateful. Yes, but yeah, I mean, when you mention his name, I'm thinking about he's an incredibly intelligent man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's done an amazing thing, but he's done a great job of authenticity for
Yeah.
himself and
Yeah.
being humble. And it's led to other really cool things that I'm sure were not planned for him.
Right.
A huge fan of the Big Bang Theory. He's made several guest appearances in there that
Yeah.
were absolutely hysterical. But that's just him being authentic with who he is every day on social media, whatnot. Becoming a name, and opportunities come about because of him being authentic, being humble, being
Absolutely.
grateful. People want to work with him. People want to
And
interact.
to your point, which I think you're alluding to, I just want to make sure I bring it home, is that he is on so many podcasts. I'm talking about some of the
Yeah.
biggest names out there, the biggest platforms on that side. And then he has TV shows, right, where he's teaching people science. He's like, America's Mr. Science person, to your point, because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Phenomenal example of being humble, being grateful,
Yeah.
and transitioning, how that opens up the door for other opportunities. And I
Yeah.
think as student
Yeah.
athletes, look at somebody like him
Yeah.
and say that, okay, every person has great examples, either
Right.
positive or negative,
Right.
as to where they are today. What's
Well,
worked for them, what's not.
and I think, to kind of lead to our last thing that I'm seeing in terms of mistakes that people are making, right? We just went through not being appreciative and lacking humility and gratitude. And one of the things is not failing to understand um, the culture of each platform. Right. Like I think the days of just taking a piece of content and spraying it on each platform, right? Putting it on Facebook, Twitter, formerly X, and Instagram and YouTube, like those days are gone. One of the things that any content creator needs to understand is becoming a tactician and practitioner of what works on each platform, right? How do Instagram stories work, and understanding that, hey, like that's actually the most highly consumed content every day, because who doesn't clicking through, and understanding that, for example, LinkedIn is arguably the most underpriced and overperforming content out there. Many people say, hey, Keith, I want to be a comedian. Keith, I want to be a public speaker. It's like, well, are you on LinkedIn? Are you creating content? Are you writing about it? Because people who are hiring and in that space are all on LinkedIn, and understanding what works there, and understanding, hey, I'm going to create YouTube videos and understand the tactics of what makes a thumbnail work. And so I think the biggest thing that we're talking about is failing to understand one of the biggest mistakes, failing to understand how each platform works in 2024 and 2025.
Great points. Great points. And I hope everybody's listening to this and understanding. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let's go.
Yeah, I love it. So there you have it. The biggest mistakes athletes are making with NIL and how to avoid them. I'm so appreciative to be with you, Keith, and walking student athletes, and all the tremendous, you leveraging almost 3 decades of experience. And so I'm really appreciative. Be the story.